Could the Chicago Bulls really part ways with Lonzo Ball and free up $33 million? It's the move that has everyone talking, and it might just reshape the future of the team. But is letting go of Lonzo the right call, or a gamble that could backfire big time? Stick around to find out why this decision could make or break the Bulls' next chapter. The Chicago Bulls have been at the center of NBA rumors for years, but the latest speculation about Lonzo Ball could change the course of the franchise. Imagine parting ways with a player like Lonzo Ball and freeing up a massive $33 million in the process. It's a scenario that has everyone from fans to analysts buzzing. But how did we get here, and what could this mean for the Bulls' future? Let's dive into the details and break it all down. Lonzo Ball arrived in Chicago with high expectations. After stints with the Los Angeles Lakers and New Orleans Pelicans, he seemed to finally find his groove with the Bulls. His unique blend of court vision, defensive prowess, and improved shooting was exactly what the team needed to complement stars like Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. When Lonzo was healthy, the Bulls were a different team. They played faster, moved the ball more effectively, and had a strong defensive anchor in the backcourt. He wasn't just a role player, he was a game changer. But there was one problem that always loomed in the background: Lonzo's health. Injuries have been a recurring theme throughout Lonzo Ball's career, and they've unfortunately derailed what could have been a promising tenure in Chicago. His knee issues have been well documented, and despite multiple surgeries and rehab attempts, he hasn't been able to return to the court. Lonzo's absence has left a noticeable void in the Bulls lineup. Without him, the team has struggled to maintain the same level of consistency, particularly on defense. It's not just about what Lonzo brings to the game, it's also about how his absence has forced the Bulls to make adjustments that haven't always worked. The financial implications of Lonzo's situation are where things get really interesting. Lonzo signed a 4-year, $80 million deal with the Bulls in 2021. At the time, it seemed like a smart investment. But with Lonzo missing significant time due to injuries, that contract has become a point of contention. The Bulls are essentially paying a premium for a player who isn't contributing on the court. And in the NBA, where salary cap space is crucial for building a competitive roster, that's a tough pill to swallow. This is where the talk of the Bulls potentially parting ways with Lonzo Ball comes into play. Under NBA rules, there's a provision that allows teams to apply for what's called a disabled player exception. This exception provides financial relief to teams when a player is deemed unlikely to return to play due to a career-threatening injury. If the Bulls were to apply for this exception and it's approved, they could free up $33 million in cap space tied to Lonzo's contract. That money could then be used to sign new players, trade for key pieces, or extend the contracts of current players. In other words, it could give the Bulls the flexibility they need to retool their roster and make a serious push in the Eastern Conference. Of course, the decision to part ways with Lonzo isn't just about money. It's also about what's best for the team moving forward. The Bulls have been stuck in a bit of a limbo, hovering around the middle of the pack in the East. They have talent, but they've struggled to put it all together. Freeing up Lonzo's contract could give them the opportunity to address some of their biggest needs, whether it's adding depth to the bench, finding a true point guard to fill Lonzo's role, or making a blockbuster trade to bring in another star. The possibilities are endless, but they all start with making the tough decision to move on from Lonzo. For Lonzo himself, this situation is undoubtedly heartbreaking. He's a talented player with so much potential, but his body just hasn't cooperated. No athlete wants to be in a position where their career is in jeopardy, especially not someone like Lonzo, who has worked so hard to improve his game over the years. If the Bulls do decide to part ways with him, it doesn't necessarily mean the end of his career. There's always a chance he could rehab and make a comeback with another team. But for now, the focus is on what's best for both Lonzo and the Bulls as they navigate this difficult situation. Former NBA champion and analyst Kendrick Perkins has weighed in on the topic, adding another layer to the conversation. Perkins, never one to shy away from bold opinions, suggested that the Bulls might have no choice but to move on from Lonzo. He pointed out that in today's NBA, you can't afford to have such a large portion of your salary cap tied up in a player who isn't available. Perkins also emphasized the importance of maximizing Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan's prime years. The Bulls have a window of opportunity to compete, but that window won't stay open forever. If they want to make the most of it, they need to be proactive. The fan reaction to this situation has been mixed. Some fans are sympathetic to Lonzo and want the Bulls to give him more time to recover. They remember how impactful he was when healthy and believe he could still be a key piece of the team's future. Others, however, feel it's time to cut their losses and move on. They argue that the NBA is a business and the Bulls can't afford to let emotions cloud their judgment. It's a tough call, and no matter what the Bulls decide, there will likely be backlash from some corners of the fan base. What makes this situation even more complicated is the broader context of the Bulls roster. Beyond Lonzo, there are other questions the team needs to address. Is Nikola Vucevic the right fit at center? Can Kobe White or Ayo Dosunmu step up and fill the void at point guard? Is Billy Donovan the right coach to lead this team to a championship? These are all questions that tie into the decision about Lonzo. The Bulls can't afford to make this decision in isolation. It has to be part of a larger strategy for the team's future. One thing is clear, the Bulls are at a crossroads. The Eastern Conference is as competitive as ever, with teams like the Milwaukee Bucks, Boston Celtics, and Philadelphia 76ers all vying for dominance. If the Bulls want to be in that conversation, they need to make some tough decisions. Parting ways with Lonzo Ball and freeing up $33 million could be the first step in a larger plan to re-establish themselves as contenders. But it's a decision that comes with risks. What if Lonzo makes a miraculous recovery and becomes an all-star with another team? What if the Bulls use that cap space on players who don't pan out? These are the kinds of questions that keep front office executives up at night. As the Bulls weigh their options, one thing is certain: Lonzo Ball's situation is a reminder of just how unpredictable the NBA can be. Careers can be derailed by injuries, and teams are constantly faced with difficult choices. For fans, it's a bittersweet reality. We love the game for its drama and unpredictability, but moments like this remind us that behind the stats and highlights are real people dealing with real challenges. Lonzo's journey has been a roller coaster, and no matter what happens next, he deserves credit for the impact he's had on the game. The Bulls' decision about Lonzo Ball will be one of the most important moves they make in the coming years. It has the potential to reshape the team's future and set the tone for the next chapter of Chicago basketball. Whether they decide to stick with Lonzo and hope for the best or take the financial relief and move on, it's a decision that will be debated for years to come. For now, all we can do is wait and see how it all plays out. But one thing's for sure, the NBA never stops surprising us, and this story is just another example of why we love the game.